Hello, everyone, and welcome in. I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome to the People's Fantasy Court. That is my bad. I always forget to tell my guests who've never been on the show before, you might want to lower your volume because my intro is deafening. And I always forget.
amped.
And right when I hit it, I said, oh no, I forgot they're going to go deaf if they have earbuds in. So my bad. I do.
No, it's like listening to hard rock in the locker for a full game.
Hey,
I'm amped and ready to go now.
Yeah, it was not great. And I do it every single time, despite the fact that people always say, hey, how about a little warning next time? But the problem is I only do this once a week. So I never think, yesterday it was too loud. So, all right, we are here today. The People's Fantasy Court is in session. Today we are going to see hear the people versus Trevor Lawrence. We will be arguing that Trevor Lawrence, who is accused of being, overrated. That's, I guess, what the official charge. We have JJ Schultz at Dino NFL. He is going to argue that that Trevor Lawrence is
I am not a top 12 quarterback.
Well, some of the starters, you may be in the competition right now. Yeah. The conversation.
I think I got DeVito.
So JJ's going to argue that he is low-end QB1, and that is where he's at. How's it going, JJ? You want to tell us about yourself? Where you're at, what you're doing, and maybe give us a brief summary of your thoughts on Trevor Lawrence here, not JJ. I keep saying JJ.
Absolutely. So JJ is not a top 12 quarterback, probably not even top 12 dynasty analyst, but I'm doing my best. So you can find all of my work over at a Fantasy Stack. My dynasty ranks up over there. I do a weekly dynasty show, just different topics each week. I'm on our Sunday social live YouTube stream every Monday, and I do every Sunday morning doing start sit questions. And then Monday mornings, I have a weekly article that comes out. It's free content. And I basically just go through and try and summarize every single game down to 4 or 5 sentences of what you need to know for fantasy and just get it out every week so you can kind of have a quick little intro this week and prepare for your upcoming fantasy matchup.
People don't realize I had this. Sorry to cut you off. I had this argument the other day with people on the ever annoying fantasy receipts, and they say you analysts are too sensitive, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't even care if the dude's take is wrong or not. I get it, but I'm like, the point is, we're not psychics, and I understand how much work someone put into it to get to his process. It's not like Bob, who just goes out and says Ben Roethlisberger's the QB1 this year. Like, you've spent hours doing your work and grinding, and then because you had a miss that week, despite the matchup, people want to shit on it. It's like, dude, we're not psychics. We never claimed to be that. At most, we're claiming that we watch a lot of film and we interpret the numbers. That's all we're doing. So, like, people are too frustrated over that, but. Sorry to cut you off. Continue, JJ.
No, basically what I'll do, I do think he is still a high-end QB1. And my argument around that, what comes down to 3 simple things. 1 is the team around him. 2 is a little bit more conservative play calling and this weird bad luck they've had this year. And then number 3, when it comes down to it, I got some numbers that are going to kind of show you like it's a little bit better than you think. I think we have like a little bit of a overreactionary brain, even as dynasty people that think that we're very sound, process driven. We still get a little bit of overreaction and ride the ups downs a little bit. So he's doing a little better than you think still.
I would just in the interest of fairness, I'd like to warn you that if you mention one of his receivers, I'm going to immediately object on behalf of the other team, and you're going to be held in contempt for even mentioning his name. So when you name one of his receivers, you play Russian roulette and hope you didn't pick 8.
The good news is I got 4 of them I'm going to talk about, so we'll see how it goes.
All right, and on the other side, arguing that at this point he is more of a high-end QB2, we have Dustin Ludke. Dustin, you want to do the same thing? Tell us where we can find you and kind of give us an opening statement here.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at the DUnit13, THEDUNIT 13. That's where I'll post all my work. I'm the content director for DynastyProsFootball.com. I'm also their sit start manager for QB List. I'm also work with Front Office Pros as a growth and planning strategist, and I contribute over at Dynasty Nerds. So Twitter's the best place to find all my work there. We do sit starts every week, which is a big part of my job right now. But I do a monthly Dynasty deep dive, and then I just do articles that pique my interest. So I actually did one on Trevor Lawrence about a couple weeks ago. So it's kind of where I got this thought process of what is Trevor Lawrence. I believe that he is a high end, if not middle QB2. I think he's 12 to 17 range. I think he's falls in 15. I think we are living off this draft hype of him being a generational talent, and that is still carried on. And I think people make excuses for him based on coaches and the team around him to negate some of the things that we have seen from him or lack things we haven't seen from him. He just hasn't lived up that potential. And I think the hype has boosted his value, and we're coming off that now.
The most important thing I took away from your intro is that I'm a moron. Because as you said, your Twitter handle, it didn't process in my brain. And every time I see it, I go, what the hell is the done it?
People do that all the time. Yes,
I'm a moron.
It's off of the G unit, so it's the D unit.
I'm like, what's a done it? I don't get it. Is that a nickname? The D unit. I'm an idiot. Right when you said it, I just went, oh, I'm so stupid. Just there's some things that I forget. My ex always gave me a hard time. I forget we were playing a game or so. Oh, we were playing Clue, and I said I read it like it was spelled, and I said, oh, he got him with a lead pipe, and I'm like, oh, it's we're playing this game. Good God. But so you were the done it. That's how I read your Twitter handle.
A lot of people do, so it's all right.
So I'm a moron. All right, guys. Where do we go with the debate next? What do you guys
think? I think we should start with let's agree on the quarterbacks that are better than Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, one sec. I will bring up some supporting evidence here. I'm gonna bring over Sleeper if I can do it.
I will pull up my current Dynasty ranks that I just updated on Monday. So they are nice and fresh too.
All right. So there is the list of quarterbacks sorted by fantasy points to date this season. Okay, I guess we'll go through and I'll name them and you guys tell me, Dynasty? That's what we're doing? Yep. Dynasty, correct? Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I'll name the player and you tell me yes or no if you take that player or Lawrence. So Josh Allen over Lawrence.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Allen. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
JJ.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, I'm on the other screen. You got to say yes because I'm on the other screen.
Oh, sorry. I'm just like nodding my head. Yep.
Yeah. I'm flipped over on the. You know what? I'll just bring it up on the StreamYard here so I can see it. Sam Howell, where it gets interesting.
That's an interesting one.
It's interesting.
I think I'm a yes, but my vote doesn't count.
I think he's in the conversation, but okay. I don't think he's a definite yes.
That's fair.
Okay, so we'll stick with two then. It's just the top two.
Well, no, I think we have to go Mahomes.
No, I just mean that we're not including Howell as a yes.
We're not including Howell. Yeah, we're not including Howell in that conversation. Yeah.
Herbert?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Barely, but yes.
Okay. Dak?
I say yes.
I have Dak a few spots behind. So I have Dak at 11. I have Lawrence at 9.
Okay.
I think so. I'm going to be the tiebreaker. I think for Dynasty, I do not have Dak ahead of him.
Okay.
So I'm not going to give CJ Stroud. I think this one's become very easy the last few weeks.
I had him ahead of a month ago, and it's
I say yes.
Now. Give me Stroud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's an easy yes at this point.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes, easy yes.
Yeah.
Lamar, I think also an easy yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's 6 we're at right now. I'm going to keep going. Tua. This one's a little closer.
I have him one spot ahead in my ranks. I have Tua at 8 and then Lawrence 9. So I'll take Tua.
Okay, so that's 7. One sec. I got to switch screens here. All right. Oh, well, this one's not going to be so difficult. Josh Dobbs.
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to skip a few because I don't. If I'm going to just skip the ones, if you guys disagree and want me to revisit them, let me know. But skipping Dobbs, skipping Wilson, Purdy, anybody?
Nope.
No. Goff, Cousins, Baker, Love. Okay, Burrow. Yes.
Burrow, yes.
Give me Burrow.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
Burrow,
8.
Yeah. Those are my 8.
I'm going to keep scrolling just to see.
Those are my 8. Those are my that I think are definitely above him.
How about Fields?
I say
I have him a couple spots behind. Same tier, I would say, but yeah, I have him down at 12.
What was your answer, Dustin? Sorry.
I say yes. I think you can argue either side of that. I think he's in that glob of them as well.
I think you're right. I think he could go either way, but the injury, I don't know what he is. Sorry, scrolling down this list. Anthony Richardson, I think, is one at this point we have to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah. So he's my number 10, and I would say they're kind of same tier for me. So like if you
Yes.
really wanted to push hard and say you wanted Richardson, I wouldn't push back too much.
I think I would
Me
take
personally-
Richardson, but I think it's debatable.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I
it's
think
close.
at this point, unless there's somebody else down here on this list,
No,
way down,
I don't think there's anybody else I can think of.
Kyler's
in that conversation for me.
Yeah, I think Goff's kind of in that combo too,
Yep.
as like kind of like more of like your high QB2.
Okay, so
and then
by my count, we have 9 who were definitive
Yeses.
and then we
Yes.
have at least 5 to 6 more who are in the conversation. So
correct, and that's where I wanted to start because I think I always had Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Lamar, Hurts over him. I think that's where that's 6. And then if you we're adding in Stroud and Tua, you're looking at best he's QB 10.
Yeah, see, when I went into the season, I was higher on him preseason than I am now. And when I went into the season, I had him in a group around 8, 9, 10 with Tua, a little bit above Dak. And I think now Tua's moved above him probably for me. And then, like you said, Stroud gets moved above him. Richardson gets moved above him. So I think for me, if I were to do my updated dynasty rankings, which I haven't done this week because the site's been down, I would say he probably falls. I think for me, he's probably 12, 13, right on the borderline there.
Yeah, and I think that is my point. I think he's in that group we're talking about Justin Fields, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Anthony Richardson, Jared Goff. You could probably, depending on how you feel about Brock Purdy, depending on how you feel about Bryce Young and his youth in terms of where he's going. Will Levis has some youth. Even guys like Russ, Stafford, Geno, who have a couple more years still on them in terms of dynasty. Where do they rank? And I guess that becomes a philosophy question of, are you going for proven production or are you going with youth? And I think that's where you get those things. I have said recently on Twitter that I think we need to start looking at Trevor Lawrence as how we have looked at Goff before this year and Derek Carr, that he is a serviceable quarterback for fantasy, but he is not the superstar that we think he is.
He's QB 18 according to this scoring, and he hasn't missed any time. That surprises me.
Yeah, he has one bye week. Yep, he hasn't missed any time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who was a great comparison for me, but I don't know if I like. Who did you say it was?
I said Fields, Russell Wilson, Kyler, Dak, Richardson, Purdy, Goff, Sam Howell, Bryce Young, possibly. I think he's in that Carr, Stafford, Geno range.
He's a tough one for me, and this is going to sound terrible. You know who I think his closest comparable is, but he's clearly better than him? I have Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, he's clearly better. I mean, right, you have to balance you have to balance the youth that you get with Trevor Lawrence compared to the proven production of a Stafford or a Geno. And
Stafford's a good one. That's a good one.
And that's a philosophy for your dynasty team. Are you more of a, I want to win now, I'm looking at things in a 2-year window, or I'm in a, let me look at things in a 5-year window?
See, and for me, I always had him rated higher than even, say, Fields, because if you've seen any of my articles, I am a notorious snob against the rushing quarterbacks. I treat them like running backs, and I trade them after 2 or 3 years before the rushing floor falls out. So I had him much higher because I didn't see him taking the Lamar, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts type of abuse. So he always got an extra couple, like for me, Burrow and Herbert always get an extra couple of bumps. They're always 3 or 4. And that's why when I talk who's my number one, it's always Patrick Mahomes for me. He's always ahead of Allen and Hurts, not just because I think he's better, but because he's not the rushing quarterback. So I don't have to worry about the Cam Newton wall and him just falling off a cliff when it goes. So the fact that I'm thinking he's no longer a top 12 for me, and I'm notoriously biased towards your pocket passers, that's probably saying that the market may be even lower on him.
So JJ, why do you think he is a low-end QB1?
So let me give you some numbers here. So what I have is a long notepad of stuff, and so I'm going to go through and just cliff notes the main parts I had here. So I think what we've seen right now is pretty close to his floor, which is QB8. I think that's pretty much the worst we're going to see from him moving forward. Here are the reasons why. As we know, he's not a scrambler, but he's good at like extending plays. First years, he was sacked 32 times as a rookie, 27 times in year 2, already been sacked 24 times in 9 games this year. So 45 pace. So the offensive line not playing as good as it normally does. Outside of that, so the other team around him, he has no true wide receiver one on the roster. I never bought into Calvin Ridley. People don't take 2 years away and come back and be that same guy. Christian Kirk, great number 2, not a number 1. Evan Ingram, he's really good when he gets volume. I don't think he's. I would say he's a top. Yes.
Were you arguing pro or against Calvin Ridley?
Oh, Calvin.
Okay,
Calvin Ridley.
We'll allow it.
I never bought into that. Right. So like he was kind of going
to
like
send the bailiff after you. Okay, we'll allow it. No,
no.
Talk on this podcast.
So no, I found a tweet that I dug up back in March where I said he was a trap at his current ADP at that time. Round 2, round 3, that was crazy. So like he doesn't have a wide receiver one, and some more evidence of that. As a team, the Jaguars, 14 drops, 6th most in the NFL. On a more individual level, Calvin Ridley has the 6th most drops, tied for the 6th most drops among all wide receivers. Christian Kirk tied for 20th most drops among wide receivers. Evan Ingram tied for 2nd for most drops among all tight ends. On top of all this, the play calling has gotten super conservative. Could partially be due to these receivers and the fact that Zay Jones has been out, and that's kind of the deep threat. Last year, Trevor Lawrence had 65 deep ball attempts, was the 9th most in the NFL. Currently, he is on pace for the 18th most, only has 27. Last year had almost 4,300 air yards, 10th in the NFL. As it sits now, he has the 19th most. So they are just not letting him throw deep, despite the fact that he is the 9th best in deep ball accuracy rating right now. You got to let him cook, let him throw the ball. And I got a few more stats, but I'll let you kind of rebuke there before I go off my last little bit here.
Yeah, so I agree. The offense has not been good in terms of what it was last year. I have said from the draft that we are just one more year in the future excuse of Trevor Lawrence has had 4 offensive coordinators in 5 years. He's on his 3rd offensive coordinator, right? Mm-hmm. Urban Meyer. Then they basically got rid of him, new offensive coordinator. They brought in Doug Peterson. He basically was calling the plays last year. Now they have Press Taylor. They're probably going to get rid of Press Taylor after this year, most likely. They'll bring in a new one, and then it's talk about what do we do with this 5th-year option. I agree. Trevor Lawrence is a decent deep ball thrower, and his offensive line is not great, but he is only getting like 2 point some seconds to throw, which isn't great. So they do need to upgrade the offensive line, but I don't think that really matters much for Trevor Lawrence. When we talk about big time throw percent, he's at 5.3. He is 10th among basically the starters, quarterbacks that have over 100 passing attempts. He is 10th. Turnover worthy plays, though, he's at 3.2%. He's at 14. So he's middle of the road in turnover worthy plays amongst starters who have at least 100 attempts, because you throw Richardson and you got Tommy DeVito in there. Just as I took those guys out. I don't see him accelerating up to a next level. I don't see him taking the step. Even if they upgrade the offensive line, which they did this year, they obviously brought in Calvary. They have brought in weapons to help him. They brought in Calvin Ridley, who they thought was good, who I guess most of us, I agree with you guys, he's not that great. Christian Kirk, obviously Zay Jones is probably done now because he's probably going to get suspended after his arrest. They re-signed Evan Ingram. I just don't see the team headed to a potential where they're going to be this high passing volume offense. I think they're going to be a run heavy offense. I think they have Travis Etienne, who I think has been good. They drafted Tank Bigsby to kind of be that goal line back. This upcoming draft, are they going to be able to invest in a wide receiver, or are they going to be forced to invest in offensive line to help the run game? Now that should provide more protection for Trevor Lawrence. I just don't see him elevating to that 12 plus range in quarterback rankings. I think dynasty wise, if you're looking at it, you want an Anthony Richardson who has the upside with the rushing upside, who has a little more ability and youth. You could argue, depending on your philosophy, Bryce Young, if you believe he's good. I don't believe he is, but if you believe he can develop, you might take him. If you like Brock Purdy, you could take him over. If you are a more short-term guy and want the Stafford or the Goff or maybe the Geno or the Baker Mayfield, you take that more proven production. I just haven't seen that based on the big play throws and the amount of turnover-worthy plays from Trevor Lawrence to say, yes, he's up there in that upper echelon of quarterback.
I think for me, it also comes down to where I am in my dynasty, because if I'm a contender and I'm just looking for points this year, I think he could be as low as 18 for me.
Yeah.
If I'm a rebuild and I'm looking for a long-term project and I'm hoping they draft better next year, get him a receiver, get him some O-line, I could move him maybe as high as 10. But I think in the end, my final verdict would be that I agree. He is outside the top 12 for me. I don't think I will go as far as 18. I see him 13, 14, 15 for me. So the end, my verdict will be guilty. That wasn't too long, was it? What, wasn't too long? No, it's good.
And I will say this about Trevor Lawrence. He only has 12 games in his career. I mean, that's like 45 games almost of 250 yards or more. He only has 11 games with 2 or more touchdowns passing. I just don't see that high volume offense that you're going to get from, say, a Herbert or a Mahomes or an Allen that can throw 3-4 touchdowns in 300-yard games. He's good. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is trash. He's not like droppable. He's probably going to be stuck as the Jaguars franchise quarterback because I don't think they can replace him. But I just think we have to manage expectations on him going forward.
Yeah, I still think he's a great quarterback. Doesn't help that he's one of the teams that actually has a legitimately good running back who they can lean. Like there's no Najee Harris here. You're not forcing him into throwing. So even Sam Howell, that running back room is pretty garbage. So he's on pace to break the record. So the passing attempts record, that is. So all right, let's take one more shot here. JJ, you want to tell us about yourself again? And, promote yourself, where you can find you.
Oh, yeah. You can find me on Twitter or X at Dino NFL right here. Again, over on Fantasy on the YouTube channel or on the website where you can find all my work. Dynasty Ranks, weekly Dynasty podcast. I'm on our live start sit show on Sunday mornings. And then I have our Monday weekly recap that'll come out usually like around 10 a.m. on the East Coast. So, yeah, check me out.
And how about you, Dustin?
You can find me on Twitter at the DUnit13. That's the best place to find me, or you can find my work over at QB List with our Sit Start article. Comes out every Thursday morning, so it'll be out tomorrow morning. Or you can find me on Dynasty Pros. That's where most of my content is, but I do put some stuff out on Dynasty Nerds. But Twitter is the best place to get all my content. I've been doing some guest spots on podcasts lately, so that's the best place to find me wherever I'll be.
I find I do a lot more guest spots on podcasts during the off season. Do you?
Literally, I don't have my own podcast, so I just do guest spots.
Oh, I find during the season, I've kind of got my little group of 2 or 3 of us, and everything's like sit, start show, waiver show, preview, this. It's so organized and so scheduled that it's like, oh, I don't know. Even like I was talking to you and I was like, when can I get him in? I'm like, maybe he'll be on the People's Court. Whereas during the off season, I had a different guest on every day, 30 days out of the month. One comment here. Start Burrow or Fields 6 point per passing this week. Fields gets the Lions. Burrow gets the Ravens. I think I'd prefer Burrow, even though
I want to see it for a week.
Yeah,
I agree. I don't want to see it for a week from Fields with the thumb.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
especially after Dak last year.
Yeah.
I watched Dak last year battle through his thumb.
I always want to see it first for at least 1 week. So, yep. I think it's consensus there, Burrow. Neither is a great matchup. I get the Lions have been bad through the air, and the only thing I do think that helps Fields here is the Lions give up more rushing yards to the quarterback position than anything I've ever seen. So that helps. Yeah. All right, for Aaron, JJ, and Dustin, thank you for tuning in to the People's Fantasy Court on the Mad Science Lab podcast. This has been the People versus Trevor Lawrence. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care and have a great night. Thanks, guys.